Good morning, everyone. Microphone check, screen check. Looks like everything's working correctly here. Good. Welcome. Hopefully everyone is able to rest up, get ready for the day ahead, all that fun stuff. On the left side of the screen, don't forget, make sure to read through the live Trader Morning Prep PDF. Very important to go through and understand everything that is inside there. If you aren't a member of SSFTG or a part of the YouTube family, check out the join button below the stream, and that way you can gain access for our next private webinar, get access to the SSFTG Discord chat, not to mention the awesome badge next to your YouTube name and show support and all of that other awesome stuff. If you're trying to figure out what it is exactly that we're doing every day, look no further than the SSFTG Day Trading Academy, not including live streams, YouTube tutorials, everything else. The Day Trading Academy has 19 plus hours of material loaded for you, and that collection continues to grow. Please keep in mind that the YouTube broadcast does have between about a 3 to 10 second delay, but if you want to level up to VIP status, you can enjoy the exclusive permanent access to our non-delayed live analysis stream via Zoom direct meetings, as well as a monthly VIP streams for VIPs, obviously, private VIP events, one-on-one scheduling access, the list goes on, and again, that's always growing as well. So whether you're here and totally new, or you're a veteran over on the VIP stream, welcome. I'm glad to have you here today with me. Let's take a look at some news and some charts and see what's going on for today, and then we can start digging in. So on the left side, get rid of that. Don't forget to grab your morning DP levels. Those are posted for you this morning on all of the major 7 markets that we take a look at. As far as the news calendar goes, I mean, realistically, there's definitely a few things going on. Earlier this morning, let's start off there, we had the Red Book numbers at 8:55. That typically doesn't do a whole lot, honestly. As we go through housing prices, not much there. Case-Shiller home, the HPI composites, not much there either. Until 10 o'clock. Then we have the CB consumer confidence. That is the big number for today. The forecast is 96.9. The previous was 91.3. Hey, Arturo, how's it going? Everybody else, welcome. At 10:30, we've got the Dallas Fed services revenues, the Texas service sector outlook, all that fun stuff, but nothing else really going on except for 10 o'clock. At 16:30, we have the API weekly crude oil stocks that will give us an idea of what to expect for tomorrow, but that's about it. So 10 o'clock, and the news calendar's done. Pretty straightforward. Let's take a look on the crypto side of things. Let me go over here. Over on the Nasdaq, we've got some pretty good upward momentum, but I mean, for the most part, since yesterday, it's just going sideways. We're not really seeing a whole lot of anything happening, really. Some nice bounces off the lows, continues back up to the highs, but as soon as it hits the highs, it falls apart there. We're not seeing the continuation to the upside, that proof, which is what we really need in order to get these buyers to keep this going to the upside. Whenever we've got a breakout, right, if you want it to succeed, they've got to hit the gas pedal. So far, that breakout failed. This breakout looked great, but then it went into the weekend and dove all the way back down again and tried holding back above. So this is kind of the line in the sand, right? I mean, we're still hovering around that area. Buyers are, I guess, technically making higher highs and higher lows, kind of, sort of. It's a little bit shady in here, but I mean, they're trying. And, you know, as long as that bullishness is attempting, then they've got, you know, I mean, they've got the wind in their sails, I guess. But, well, unfortunately, that wind is pretty short-lived because we have all over the place an undertow sucking the market back down. The support really isn't showing up. And if we look at it from a volume perspective, going all the way across from the lows, which will probably take a second. There we go. We can see that there's just one gigantic clump of volume. There's not really much going on. There seems to be distribution below and distribution above, but nothing's really, I mean, it's all balanced in the middle. So in order to kind of gauge what's happening here, we're going to have to zoom this volume back a little bit further and kind of figure out, well, you know, what's happening? Is this accumulation from the top? Are they buying in on this move lower? What's going on? And so let's draw back to the high that happened on the 16th. And that will give us a little bit of a better idea. Okay, so now we're seeing signs of accumulation. It seems as though buyers stop accumulating below 12,750 though. Then it's distribution. So if we start breaking below the 750s again, then unless it bounces up relatively quickly, it's probably going to slide back down and challenge another zone of interest around the 12,600s. So long as this accumulation is still holding, it's assumed that buyers are going to be trying to come in on the dips. And we're seeing that defined in volume. So, I mean, it's doing what it needs to do. It's just that 750 mark is going to be a big line in the sand. we're at the lows of the wedge. We'll see if they want to carry this further up. Over on the S&P, still has a great continuation to the upside, but again, same problem. Sideways, range bound, not really a whole lot going on. If we draw the volume from the bottom all the way across here, that'll give us a cleaner idea as to what's going on. Give this a second here. There we go. All right. And we've got ourselves some accumulation. So as far as accumulation goes, there's a lot of it going on, and the majority of it's happening above the market, which means that the market is staying below the POC. That's a bit of a problem. The majority of the volume has built up towards the highs, so the market staying below that is definitely causing some issues. And not to mention, we've had the undertow for a while, but this is adding to that context. So the S&P is not looking so good. They've got a shot, I guess, but ugh, man, it's getting tough here. I'd rather be interested on the Nasdaq, if anything. Gold continues to get pummeled to the downside. It was looking like maybe they were going to form a channel of some sorts, but, well, that's gone. As far as the channel breakdown goes, this thing is just getting absolutely hammered. Looking at continuation, we might even have to go out to a larger time frame just to see what's going on, like a 60-minute chart. From the 60-minute perspective, we can see that, I mean, really, this market drove up. It challenged these previous major highs, tried breaking above, failed, really big failure, lower high failure, Dumposaurus Rex. A lot of times when the market tanks down like that, it'll come back to the inside swing. That's where we're finding some balance right now. So by no means do I want to be a seller way down here. That's a terrible spot to be a seller. If anything, this might be a zone for longer term swings, although if you're kind of trying to catch a chainsaw here, it'd be a lot better to wait for the knife to hit the floor than find the bottom after that. Overall, the market's falling. It's falling aggressively. We're just in a zone of support. So I'm going to have a really hard time wanting to do anything down here except for potentially sell retraces. If we can get a retrace back to the inside of the channel, that would be the zone of interest. Crude oil continuing to the downside after failing through the highs. What is this weird gap in my chart? Is that actually, is my data messed up? Hang on, let me reload my data real quick. Huh. Do you guys have that too on crude oil? Do you have this gap that happened at, like, I mean, it was a close, so if there was going to be a gap, there'd be a gap there. From a time standpoint, it makes sense. I just want to confirm that my data's not messed up. Weird. Anyway, we've got some bear continuation to the downside. It just, yeah, I mean, it just looks like it was a close gap. Closed at 5, open back up. It's, yeah, okay. We've got some downside continuation. The market's obviously pulling back. As far as this pullback goes, if we're looking at the lows, we did have a rotation off the base, and it was an L5 rotation. That's great. But we are sorely missing that strong breakout. Last breakout was garbage. The breakout after that was garbage. The breakout after that was garbage. Really, I mean, it just looks like they need to get a bit of a pullback. And what better spot to see a trap low, an L4, which the market loves picking up on all of these weak highs, getting that dip, trapping everybody out just to see it V-bottom reverse all the way back up again. The probability is not great, right? I mean, let's be real here. Trying to buy a V-bottom low in assumption that it's going to turn around, your odds aren't very good. But the probability is great. So if it reverses off that low, the risk is small, right? But the reward is way the heck back up to the highs, sitting at like 3 to 1. Give me 1 second. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. So as far as crude oil goes, I mean, buyers are obviously picking up the dip. I think it makes a lot more sense that they're going to want to see that deeper move. We might not get it. I mean, realistically, it just might not happen. But that is going to be the big zone of interest for crude. As far as the euro creating a multifaceted channel, which we have yet to really confirm the lows of. So far, there's been nothing but an undertow. That doesn't mean that the market can't come back up again. Go back down again with the MACD breaking a new low and kind of reconfirming. But as of right now, it's having some difficulty. So bears are still in charge, but maybe they need a little bit of a reload. Seems like it's having some trouble down here. Over on the crypto side of things, Bitcoin missing the top of the channel by just a little bit, but seems like it might have just been close enough. There's a lot of wick peaks up there, and we've got an undertow heavily trying to pull the market down a little bit. Realistically, a lot of buyers are going to be waiting for a better price. 57,000, a little bit under 57,000 will be a lot more beneficial than where it is now. Buyers are very aggressive. So, I mean, each continuation pullback has been L1, L1, barely an L1. So eventually we'll get an L2, and that will be the reload. Over on the euro, we did have that attempted break above the top of the channel that failed and held the inside, which is the clue that that channel actually existed there. Once we continue it back on, the market came back, retested it again, and we are showing more signs of failure. Here again, it just seems more likely, or at least more probabilistic, that buyers get a better price. They're not wanting to go through the top, obviously, otherwise it would have gone. So with the lack of buyers up at the highs, they're going to have to try to find some a little bit lower. Or completely flip gears and go crazy. I mean, that's always an alternative too. All right, starting off on the daily for the Nasdaq. Yesterday's daily candle ended up closing as a big gross, whatever you want to call that. But again, the key point here is that they triggered above the bull bar and went lower. That would be a little bit of a problem. Likely, the previous low of day, or the low of this bear bar, will be a big zone of interest. A lot of buyers will be buying in on that dip underneath previous low of day, looking for today to go bull engulfing. They want to see that bull continuation. We've got all of these traps, potentially, on the lows, and none of them have been able to succeed so far. So buyers will be looking to utilize that to their advantage, knowing that the risk is relatively small, but the reward, if they are right, makes it back up very high. So again, it's a low probability scenario down here, but a lot of swing traders are going to be gobbling this up. Zooming in a little bit closer to the 60-minute chart, and we can see that there's not really much has changed still. We still have the same channel, not really any difference there. As far as a wedge, I mean, maybe it's narrowing down, but it's not really giving us anything to work with. Let's see. The only other thing I could think of is maybe if we take this. It just doesn't give enough to really work with. So it's the same channel. We've got the rising channel that's still grinding its way higher. This thing's obviously a mess on the 60-minute. Gross. Over on the 15. Very, very, very sideways. Obviously, the value repetition actually dove down a lot further. Looks like they probably did their typical 1.5 move. So if we take this, dive value down, it went, 1.5. So I was looking for a bounce off of the 1-to-1 value. Nasdaq, in its vindictive nature, went all the way back down and got the 1.5 value. Either way, it had a fantastic rotation back up, got all the targets back to the upside, continued back up, but as soon as it hit the highs, it slammed all the way back down again. So this isn't looking so great. This is definitely range bound. On the faster time frame on the 500 tick, kind of seeing what's going on so far. Started off the day with a bear cycle to the downside. As far as the Asian session, the initial range on the day had a double deviation lower, which found support back up into the end of the close, which then cycled back lower for the European session, which just recently broke out. European session broke out to an L1 deviation lower and is trying to rotate back in. That's a good sign of bullishness. We also have some fairly obvious divergent lows going on here with a heavy undertow. So buyers are trying to get this to rotate back up. If we look at this from a trend perspective, starting at the beginning of the day, it's kind of a funky swing high. We'll start here, I guess. They started with an L4 continuation down. That's a good sign of, I mean, that's what you want to see, right? Those L4s, L5s before a trend starts off. That's great. A little more continuation down, ended up in an L2, which rotated down for an L3. So we're jumping around a little bit. There's not a whole lot of consistency. It's not like L1, 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 L1. It's an L4 into an L2 into an L3. We're kind of skipping around a little bit here. Now they've gone to an L1. Are we going to play the skip game and go to an L4 now? Right? The last time we went to a 2 and backed off to a 3. Now we're going to go to a 1 and then a 4 and kind of, go both ends. That's what I'm kind of interested in right now. It seems like that's sort of the pattern where we're getting a little bit skippy. L4 would be the kind of zone of interest, but I don't want to necessarily be the first one to the party. I'm kind of curious to see what happens there more than anything else, at least first off. All right. Giant wick candle on the bottom of crude oil. Gold's trying to reverse off of the lows with a potential V bottom. The euro is still staying really choppy. There's not much going on there. My bar timer is gone on that charting. So I'm trying to fix a chart off the screen here. Just decided that it didn't want to play. Very nice continuation to the upside. Buyers trying to get the rotation up. Sellers will be waiting for that L4, L5 area of interest. That low on crude oil might be as close as they're able to get. We'll see. Stock exchange open in 7 minutes. Now, as far as scalpers go on the Nasdaq, realistically, any dip back will likely get scalped back around like the 65s or so. See if we can get as where'd my things go? My colors are all different now. So if we can get a dip back, actually 56s, 55s looks a little bit better. Ethereum is ramping up on the 15-minute chart. That is a really strong bull bar that's starting to kick off there. Oh yeah, for sure. I totally agree, Leslie. That's one of the things that when we're looking at the differences and why I decided to go that way. I think we're all kind of on the same page. It's just a better alternative, which is why it's a VIP perk. It just kind of all fell together perfectly, you know. Well, no, I can't say perfectly. It was a little rough the first couple of days, but I think we got it figured out now. It's never perfect, but... The one thing I'm kind of curious of, and what I was thinking for YouTube members and VIP members, is if there was a way, like after the webinar is done on YouTube, to be able to close it off to just members, like convert over to a just members stream, or do I have to create an entirely new stream? An entirely new stream would be kind of repetitious, but that way we can do like a members only Q&A session at the end. But I don't know if that'll mess with this. Like I said, I'm still pretty new to the YouTube scene, so I don't know if that would mess the stream up or if I'd have to make another one. Because that way, you know, not to like throw shade or hate or anybody at who's not a member. Obviously, I appreciate everybody who's here. But when we're in training time, it's really hard to answer questions about like course specific stuff without giving everything away. You know what I mean? So. I don't know. We'll see. I've always got ideas rattling around in my head. It's just a matter of which ones I want to chase down the rabbit hole, I guess. Got about 4 minutes until the open. There's really not much going on. Looking at the S&P, we've got a nice consolidation. They did potentially just trap above the highs at 39.4975. 3.5 minutes left on the candle. They close a nice bear bar going into the final couple minutes here. I mean, might see a nice push down. I'm just not really seeing a reason to strike at all. I don't like that being green. It's got to be blue. I'm used to the blue. Euro's making a new low. That's it. I need to find some copyright-free music that I can actually trust. Those copyright-free channels that you always see. Those are like the ultimate bait. You get struck constantly from those stupid things. 928. Nice continuation, bouncing a little bit, but not really a whole lot of volume so far. Pretty calm and quiet. We know there's accumulation volume going on to the downside. There's a nice reversal off of the lows. I'd like to see a quick little flush down into the 5850s. Hey, Bram, how's it going? Welcome, welcome. We got a little under 1 minute until the open here. Zone of interest for buyers is going to be a little bit of a dip down to the 5850s, or sellers at around the 90150s, maybe even a trap above the 903s, depending on how it hits at the open. That volatility at the open can always throw things for a little bit of a loop, so you've got to play it a little safe. Come on, Nasdaq. Nice little flush at the open. I'll be a happy camper. Unless it keeps flushing, then I won't be a happy camper. 10 seconds. Nasdaq, you're supposed to be open. Did you miss that? It's 9:30. Come on now. What happened? Everyone forgot that Tuesday was a trading day, I guess. I don't know. All right, there we go. That's a really heavy bear bar. Oof. I haven't had a single trade yet so far. Zone of resistance up there in the 900s. Zone of support down below the 60s. Ooh, lordy, that was fast. I missed the initial approach. Yeah, I missed the initial one. It jumped down there so fast, I was only able to grab one. By the time I realized what had even happened, I was already out of the zone. It's a nice quick little bounce back up. It's a 15-second delay on YouTube. Yeah, sometimes the delays can be a little bit higher. I was messing around with the latency settings again, trying to optimize it so that the quality wasn't as horrible, but it sounds like it went the wrong way by a lot. So 15 seconds, I'll turn back the settings that I had before. I can't do it in the middle of the stream, but if you are a VIP member, though, just go over to SSFTG, go into the VIP zone at the top, and you can log into the non-delayed Zoom session. Lots of resistance up at the highs, 85s or so. Sellers will be looking for a continuation move to the downside. Nice initial bounce out of that area. Now from here, they're trying to hold that higher low, and we can see it's kind of that inside swing, rising support-ish kind of stuff, but ugh. That's a really strong pulse to the downside. Honestly, this looks like it could try to make a second leg. Unless the sellers just get ran over, of course. We're at the bottom of the European session, which makes this really awkward, but a strong bear bar will try to get continuation to the downside if they can trigger in shorts. It's forcing sellers to sell very low, so it's going to be one of those it's got to move quick or not at all type scenarios. Nice quick pop up. Nice drive down. See if they can get the continuation. I'm going to take break even on the first two. There's the flush. Really? Can I get a fill? Jeez. All right, I'm out of the second one. It bounced up a little bit further than I wanted, so I went a little more risk off when it came back to that original break-even point, but the secondary flush did end up following through. This open timing can be really awkward. I don't like holding on to too much risk around the open if I don't have to. In hindsight, of course, I should have, but that hindsight account ever growing. And then I'll type it just in case they miss it or they're watching the recording back. Made a quick new low, bounced right back up again. Yeah, the setup yesterday hit the target. It took a long freaking time, but it did end up hitting the target. It hit it when I wasn't even at the computer, so I didn't even see it hit the honestly, it went a lot further, but they did end up going to 13,000. I thought for sure they were going to fall short, but so I mean it was a fantastic trade. It just I wasn't around to really talk about it. It hit it at 1. I'm ootin' a boot. Bear continuation to the downside, looking for possibly a 3-legged pulse. We've got the first leg, second leg, missed it a little bit. Third leg usually equalizes. What's the S&P on the 5-minute look like? What happened to the 5-minute on the S&P? Look at these bull bars. Gross. Talk about exhaustion, huh? Sheesh. And all of those buyers were given a shot to get out at break even too before this reversal down. Vicious. Nothing going on the S&P as far as the setup goes, but it is interesting at least. Wow, the gold 5-minute chart looks like garbage. Swing longs on this overextension lower will be looking to buy in from the bigger picture. Remember, the major swing longs are waiting for a pierce below previous low a day. That's below the 807s, 808s, down there. That's where major swing longs start coming in. Options, call options, you know, months down the line. Well, maybe not months, but the long-term traders are going to be coming in down there. QQQ buyers, etc. From a futures perspective, we just rolled over to the 621, so you should be A-okay with the 621. I mean, I'm not expecting this to last a month down here. I mean, it might, you know, but I guess if it does last a month, then you might be upset with the fact that you took the futures trade. Whenever I'm looking at longer-term areas, I sound like Mr. Krabs. Whenever I'm looking at these longer term areas personally, I like looking at them more on the stocks, options side of things. So they don't interrupt with the futures trading, right? If I want to take a scalp on the Nasdaq, but I'm swing long from a week ago, that kind of really hinders my ability to do anything. You could alternatively do it on the micro. 10 micros is 1 mini, right? You'd pay a little more in commission, but just call that the cost of being able to still trade the Nasdaq, I guess. So there are ways to make it work for sure. Nice continuation back to the upside. Getting a lot of undertow here down in the faster time frame. For you guys that were on the VIP webinar that we did this past weekend, this area is definitely something that's standing out. I would prefer to see something like that up in that L4, L5 area though. For downside movement. S&P attempting to get continuation to the downside. Metric ton of support came in at 43.75. Looking at the most recent S&P breakdowns on the 5-minute perspective, we had a 0.03% breakdown, a 0.04% breakdown, and a 0.05% breakdown. Well then, I think my next one is going to be 0.06, right? That's following along, climbing the ladder down. 0.06. 39.41. 40 and 39. So S&P has a zone of interest 39, 41, 40, 39 down in that area. That would be climbing the ladder down. The last breakdowns on the previous candles have been 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. I'm looking for 0.6, but it's got to hit it on this candle. It's got 7 seconds to do it. Not likely. Couldn't do it. Repetition's gone. And just so you can see what I was looking at, the breakdown here to here was 0.3. The breakdown from here to here was 0.4. So I was breakdown from here to here was 0.5. So naturally then I was looking for a continuation of that as a 0.6 down here. But it had to hit it on that candle, and they couldn't do it. So, missed it. Yeah, major, Rebecca, definitely. And now we've got a 3-press low with a, I mean, it's a whack D all the way across. If we get a pulse to the upside, this is a potential reversal. That's why we've been talking about these long-term longs down here. Swing longs, traders looking to hold for the end of the day, end of the week. They're buying down here. Keep in mind, end of the week is Thursday. The markets are closed Friday for Good Friday. Actually, that reminds me. Did I accidentally schedule calls for... hang on. I think I might have pulled a stupid. Yeah, I did. And now it's slow, dead again. All right, give me 1 second here. I will be right back. My dog is looking at me with those eyes. I will be right back. All right, we're back. Sorry about that. Nice continuation to the downside. They do complete the test of the measured leg. Looks like they did it a little over here, though. As far as continuation to the downside, I mean, they're still holding. The L4 is gone. And actually, I'm kind of curious, if we look from the highs and zoom this out a little further, where are we in that sequence? Still not down to that major buy zone yet, but rotated off an L5. Great rotation. Break down into an L1. Almost an L2. L1. 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 Almost back to an L2. Break down again. L1. So eventually, I'm expecting an L2. Very frequently when you have this kind of back and forth movement, you'll get this really nice move down, you'll get the nice lower high reversal, and then you start getting these really aggressive narrow pullbacks over and over and over again. Narrow, narrow, and then you get that one larger pullback. Continues along its merry way, keeping those lower lows, but eventually you get that larger pullback. That's the one that I'm looking for. So if we drag this over, I'm looking for this one. At the moment, we're here. Three press low, actually more than three, but three press low to the downside. Zone of interest for sellers going to be hovering around this 48.75 back to the underside of the European session lows. Caffeine going. No, not Red Bull. No, it's Rain Inferno. It's the jalapeno strawberry, which I know. That flavor combination sounds atrocious. It's really good. Will still probably kill you. I mean, you know, energy drinks and all. You ever tried jalapeno mango dried fruit? I haven't. I don't really eat a whole lot of mango here in it's never really been a staple in our grocery list, I guess. I'll have to try it, though. Anything with jalapeno, I mean, spicy anything I'm a fan of, but... Nice continuation to the downside. Couldn't make it to the European session highs. This move lower is very aggressive, but honestly, I don't really believe it. I kind of want to see it blow through the lows down to the 800s. See if they can overflush the bottom by about 10 points or so, and then bounce right back up again. So from the scalper's perspective, I'm looking for this to dip down to the 800s to catch a bounce back up. Got to go a little further towards those 800s, though. And couldn't get the job done. It's still showing signs of bullishness, but I want to be a buyer on the lows to reduce my risk as much as possible. I know that the market's trying to put a bottom in here. I don't know if they're going to be able to. But what I do know is that if I buy as low as possible and I'm wrong, my risk is a lot smaller. But there's always a side note to that. Being greedy in terms of your entry location does mean that you can miss trades too. Yeah, we have the only big news really today at 10 o'clock, which is right around the corner. Makes it a little awkward. Come on, Nasdaq. I just want a good overextension, that's all. Something off of this lower edge of support. Or proof, right? If it wants to reverse higher, break some new highs, form some higher lows, reverse the trend, then sure. But for now, I want it cheaper. Nice bull bar back to the upside. Resistance potential at around the 62s or so. It's going to have to go through the European session a little bit. So if it's going to have to go through that, they're probably going to require a bit more strength anyway. So I'm going to mitigate up a little further towards 73. I don't know what kind of candle the S&P is trying to close right now. On the S&P, I'm going to look at 43.50 for a potential short area here. I like the zone off 43.50. I was only able to get one. I'll take it out the point. That's fine. All right. It's a 1 point off. The reason why I like it there is it's a 1 point offset from the close of the candle, and that allows sellers an opportunity to try to get back in a little bit further. Plus, if scalpers were in long and they took 1 point, a lot of times they'll offset that final one by a point, and you can get some pretty easy fills, well, easier fills, with them getting stopped out. Got about 5 minutes or so until the news, or top of the hour news, everything else that's going on. That's really the only thing today, which is it's kind of a bummer, but buyers holding the inside wedge top. That didn't look like the wedge, but sure enough, there it is. Nice little pop, but not really in any area of interest yet. And here we sit again. 10 o'clock, top of the hour in about 2.5 minutes. Market sort of sideways ahead of this news. Sellers trying to drive back down again. Man, what a mess. As far as the S&P goes, there will be some selling pressure above the previous 5-minute, not the most recent 5-minute bar, but the one above that. 45.50 in that area. Sellers will be looking to pressure back down against that. 46.50, 47.50, that whole area. We are going into news, so that is a consideration. $44.25. Testing the 1 point. There we go. It's got a little bit more to go for that secondary objective at 44.25. I'm going to offset again, 45.75. If it can go up one more time, I love that area. Well, unless they fill it. Okay. Well, I still like this area. See if they can go back up again with the news. Watching the zone on the S&P, going into news. $45.75. Can it get up there? Oops. I want that. There we go. $45.75. Hasn't hit it yet. Toying with my emotions here. Nasdaq doesn't know what the heck it wants to do. Actually, it looks like the Nasdaq wants to sell is what the Nasdaq wants to do. This is going to be the last ditch, though. Sellers, if they're going to try to take this lower, it's going to have to go quick. They're not going to sit around if it fails. Shorts have the potential continuation to the downside on the Nasdaq, but like I said, it's not going to hang around. It's got to move fast. Nice slide. Initial slide. Give me one more slide. There we go. Nice push. Good follow through on the scalp side for the Nasdaq short. S&P missed me by a tick on the refill. I was looking to grab a couple more, but I didn't get it. Across the board on the bigger picture, still not much going on. Although the euro is getting really close, if not physically testing the bottom of that wedge. Bottom of the channel. So why isn't it showing up on my other 15-minute chart? I mean... good enough. Right? I mean, that's good enough. Technically, it didn't physically test it, but, I mean, that's fine. So the buyers do have the bounce. The knife did hit the floor, at least initially. We've only got a one-candle bounce, but that's a good sign that euro buyers are trying to get a low in here. Very nice bounce off of the DP at above 810. Buyers still trying to maintain some support here. We've only had a one-candle bounce back on the S&P, and it's still going lower. We've got 1 minute 10 on the candle. If it closes a strong 5-minute bear, sellers will probably take it down again. There's so much wick on the bottom, though, that... ugh. I think, if anything, if I were going to look for another short on the S&P, if we did close a bear bar looking like this, I'd rather wait for the sellers to get triggered in and then offset a point or two back. Secondary bull bounce back to the upside. Another really strong bear bar? If they close another strong bear bar, that's going to add another... Again, it's a situation where it's got to go fast or fail. Sellers popping back in. See if they want to follow this through with a down thrust. Too much support. I'll take the scalp and call it a day. That's fine. They're going to break through. They'll follow through with another strong bear bar, and there'll be another opportunity. But that's not the follow-through that sellers wanted. Like I said, it's got to go fast. It didn't. It just kind of hung around. It's a nice scalping opportunity, but that's about it. Ooh, and now that big bull bar back up. This is going to get a lot of bulls involved. So if this fails and turns back lower, guess what I'm looking to do again? Strong bear bar. It went above that bull bar's high. I'm going to look for sellers to try to push this down one more time. I really like the potential for this to try to shove down. Starting to rifle back a bit too aggressively, though. I'm going to start jumping ship on this move. That's going to be a hard pass. No, thank you. I'm out. If they trap again and make it drop again, then I'll look to re-short. But with that kind of... Holy crap. Okay. Well, I think I got out a little too early. It's too far down for me to go in with any size, so I'm just going to have to go with one and see if they can get the break through the support. If they can back up above the 20s, then that offers a refill capability. Well, that went fast. Very nice breakdown. There we go. Woo! Holy crap. I was starting to mitigate. I exited one before it started dropping. It looked like it was going to start reversing back up again and not wanting to go, but finally the gas pedal hit. Still a complete and total failure underneath the lows. This is all scalping territory, if you couldn't tell. This is a major scalping zone because look at all the congestion. This is just a big barbed wire fence. Big bull bar will get bulls involved again, but look at the slope of the moving averages. It's not something that I normally involve too much of, but the slope of those moving averages should give you a pretty big clue as to who owns the market right now. Give me another strong bear bar down. There's got to be a Fed computer doing this buying down here like it's fun. Oh, for sure. Like click, click, click. See, the problem is they have the infinite money hack. I can't just print money. Well, I mean I can, but you know, federal offenses and all. Probably wouldn't go too well. Bulls trying to get the rotation back up. They could not get that breakthrough DP support. If the resistance comes in again, that's fine. I'm not interested in selling it. They just failed too aggressively down there. I'm going to look to sell a higher high now, above 45s into 50s. Maybe even up to the European session high. It makes a lot more sense to want to sell high now. Initial point of interest, I think it's already been defended, honestly. If they're going to push up, it's more likely going to start trapping around the highs. I just can't see any other logical point that it would try to pressure into. Whew. Lordy, lordy, that's a heck of a bear bar to the downside. Remember, we don't have any context from the bulls yet. They're holding the lows. That's fine. But we're not seeing any higher highs, higher lows, no conviction, no proof. Nothing. Another strong bull bar will shut, or a strong bear bar will shut down these bulls. Although it would be a lot nicer if they triggered this long in first. Ooh. Little bitty inside bull bar reverses down into a bear bar. This might be game time for shorts again. Earlier shorts who got stuck, they were stuck in the 26s, 25s. So kind of keep an eye on that area. If the shorts are going to push through that, well, if they're successful, they should be able to. Two-legged correction phase back to the upside around 850s. Big jump to the upside. Major profit target zone for a lot of scalpers jumping out here. A little more continuation. There we go. Nice. Scalpers pressure right back out of that zone. They did also stick the knife in the ceiling a little bit. We'll see if they can come back up and reconfirm. Next time around, though, it's probably going to have to be a bit further up around the 56s, 57s. S&P sellers will have a chance to repressure back down at 48.25. So 48.25 is a zone of interest at the moment. As far as downside objectives, yeah, it's not terrible. Ooh, gold on the 15-minute. If they plot another bear bar looking like this, that could start some pretty nasty movement. Just kind of waiting, seeing if the Nasdaq sellers want to come back up towards the European highs, back to the 3-press wedge top. All of this resistance starting to stack up here. Nice bear bar, secondary follow through to the downside. Sellers will try to take that as well. Also keeping an eye on the swing potential for the longs now that we've got a potential 3-press low with divergence and a whack D. The whack D's just got to pull back a little bit, that's all. S&P only has 10 seconds. Although I still don't mind it if it climbs back up above a big wick bar like it's got right now. A big wick candle that's forming here, I'm fine with selling above that. That doesn't help anybody for the longs, so. More heavy, aggressive continuation to the downside. Which is actually, in this case, a really good thing. That's going to suck the MACD down really quickly, creating the whack D. That's how it forms. There's that gold bear bar on the 15-minute. Ooh, lordy, look at that. Now, there's one of two things that's going to happen here. Because of this twin reversal on the lows, this scares the crap out of me. Sellers will have shorted underneath that bear bar, and they've gotten out of break even. And they have, once again, bounced at break even. So it's either going to go incredibly fast or it's going to be a monstrous trap before a big reversal. This bull bar on the lows, I like this down here. I'm going to try to grab a long, just holding from this singular bull bar to try to get a rotation back up. I like this movement, but it's lower probability, so I do have to compensate the probability with a 2-to-1 risk versus reward. Target would be 35.25 at the moment. Nice bullish continuation, trying to get that move to the upside for the 2-to-1. Very nice drive. Now, given the movement that it's had to the upside, I'm obviously not willing to let this trade turn into a loss anymore, so the stop is going to move up. But the target is 2-to-1. Stop is a little closer. All right, taken out on the stop. They broke above that bull bar's high and immediately snapped back. So the reason why I move my stop so quickly is because this still has a very bearish tone. I'm not going to try to stay long for very long. And that's also why the probabilities are closer to like a 2-to-1 unless something changes, which it did. And you can see the change. Everybody who was long just jumped ship. Now they can reload down in this pullback, if they're going to try to reload, that is. Honestly, for longs now, I'd rather see it go a bit further down. Let's get that whack D going. So longs beginning to build in for the swing to the upside. Still very early, so I'm going to utilize this spacing down here as a zone of interest to create an average that's a bit low weighted. So I'm going to take my time creeping into this one. This is below the previous low of day. This is where all of the major swings, the calls, the options, the QQQs, the everybody is going to be looking for signals for longs. But again, we have to understand the context here. We've got to play it on the safe side. We know how the Nasdaq operates. Seeing the Nasdaq slide 400 ticks isn't that crazy. Whoa. Speaking of, so swings will be building in for the long move. Again, we've got to take in the bigger picture here from the swing perspective. So if we go over to the weekly brief charts, those are 4-hour charts. Let me load up the Nasdaq real quick here. I've got to roll over gold and something else. All right. So the reason why I like this area is because the long potential versus the risk is incredibly good, right? The risk is entering in below these lows, looking for the stop placement around the area down here. Realistically, from a swing perspective, that shouldn't be able to break down if they're going to hold. That was the wedge bottom. They shouldn't break that. And the upside objective, if this is going to hold for a move up, would be the same distance as this originating leg, which means that I'm looking for a continuation up towards around 13,700. So the risk reward, we're sitting at about 3-ish, 3.5 to 1 or so. So the probability versus the risk here is why I like this area. But you can see, I mean, the risk is still no small jaunt in the park. We're talking a 1.5% move to the downside, which is why from the futures perspective, a lot of traders will utilize micros. They'll utilize options, the QQQs, things like that to mitigate risk. I don't think I'm going to get the S&P short, so I'll just cancel that. So given that this move has pulled back a little further than I wanted it to, as we come back up towards the original entry point, I've got 1, 2, 3. I'll look to exit the 3 of them around my original entry point, and that will leave 2 with a very nice low weight. That'll take those out at a nice profitable area of interest back in the moving average cluster and swing lows. That makes perfect sense. The secondary objective to the upside for the final runners, again, are all the way back for the major zone of interest. The only reason why I'm managing it this way is because of the shorter time frame. And now we'll let the Nasdaq do whatever it needs to do down here. S&P is also continuing to grind a bit lower. 39.34 DP support. Crude oil is massively sideways. Gold has not triggered in that bear bar. That's the key part of that. One second here. That order there. All right. Just modifying a couple longer term positions here. I'm liking this Nasdaq dip a lot. I'd like to see them put a knife in the floor though. Yep, exactly. It's a very, very interesting setup going on here on the much faster. Yep. Let's see here. As far as actual risk, yeah, we're right around the 1-to-1 for actual risk, so I'm still okay with that area. That's fine. Very touchy spot. Now notice something very important if you're long. If you're long and you see something like this, it went really close to break even and then starts backing off, right? If I were long, which I am, if I were looking to potentially say, you know, hey, maybe I want to be a little bit cautious, I see crap like that, that's going to tell me to be cautious. I'm going cautious on a different route in the terms of keeping sizing a little bit smaller. But those are the types of clues that you really need to pay attention to. Because remember, you're not the only one that would be sitting there at break even. I'm not the only one waiting for a break even or a little bit more to grab those first targets. There are going to be a lot of others doing the same thing. It's those little clues like that can paint a really big picture. There we go. Nice jump to the upside. One thing that we have to be very cognizant about is volume on this increase. That big chunk of volume that came in at that break-even point, That kind of stuff, again, it scares the crap out of me. I don't want to deal with that. No thanks. Let's see if they want to ride this last little bit out. Starting to break above the previous swing lows. Let's get a... Man, that green is bright, isn't it? Jeez. So let's get the trail on the one contract going in at 1/2. Stopped out of the one. And then the final trail at the moment is going to be a little bit further back. We've got a 1 and 2 candle trail. We'll follow a 2 candle trail for now. $95.50. I mean, they might try to whip through this $96.75 first. Yeah, see that vindictive little BS that they did right there? That kind of crap happens all the time on the Nasdaq. All right, good continuation to the upside. Now let's see if they want to follow this through. Nice breakout momentum. Keep on trucking, Nasdaq. My cake is missing some icing. Please, sir, can I have some more? Testing DP resistance now. Wow. What an incredible price action they have going on here. Stop moving up again. Not interested in engulfing bear candle, thank you. Two candle trail. It did not go engulfing, so the trail goes back again. If anything, if they're going to reject off of this, they'll probably reject and try to trap underneath this low of the previous bull bar. So I'm kind of curious what they do here. Never mind. On up it goes. There we go. Keep on going, Nasdaq. Thank you for the extra icing. I appreciate it, my friend. Ask and you shall receive, huh? Not always. Oh, so we're friends now, huh? Yeah, I know, right? Well, you said the F word, now you're screwed. This is about when I get snapped out of the trade, right? Yep. That's fine. I'm not going to complain about that trail. It depends on the day. You know that, Paul. Come on now. This time around, it was my friend. The next 3 times, it'll kick me in the teeth while smiling. Going on to 10:30. And a little bit later in the day, the 15-minute on gold never triggered. Huge clue. Bulls will be buying above that inside bull bar on gold to try to get the rotation back to the upside. Swings long on Nasdaq on all fronts, whether it's options, whether it's futures, whether it's micros, whatever. This is the first major profit-taking area on this continuation move back to the upside. This is why we're seeing it congest so much. We're finally tagging out some stop trails. We're finally tagging out the aggressive trailers. It's probably not done, right? It'll probably keep going. If you've got more contracts, it'll probably go for another couple more legs. Upside objectives back up towards the larger perspective, which would be up towards the... I mean, I wanted to see it hit 13,000 as it did yesterday. I can't believe it did that yesterday. Back up towards like the 12,875s to 900s. I mean, that is the zone. So we will be moving into training time a little bit sooner than later, unless this volatility keeps up, then we'll have something to do. But for now, feel free to get those questions typed in. We'll get those taken care of for you. What a bounce off the lows. Sheesh. Thoughts about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin? From the bigger picture, I mean... Like the well, oh geez, man, it's hard to even look at the 4-hour chart. I guess let's look at the 15 first. Where it stands, it's making me a little bit nervous because we do have a bit of an undertow. I would much rather see it pull back. To be totally transparent, I did and have been reducing my position sizes on crypto while it's been rallying higher. One of the positions that we were talking about was in the chat room, at least in Discord, was Nexo, Crow, in EOS, and in a few of the other ones. EOS, Nexo, and a few of those I'm still very much interested in because they're still incredibly cheap. But EOS, I've started reducing a little bit on. Bitcoin, I've started reducing a little bit on. I mean, we're starting to creep back up into a zone of resistance. This is DCA off when we're up here. I would much rather see it dip down to like 57 to 56 than it's DCA back on again. Then we're at the channel lows in a zone of interest. The same kind of can be said for Ethereum, but they are diverged a little bit. Ethereum broke above the channel highs and then is holding the inside. That's a bit more of a problem. That shows a bit more resistance. So a dive down to the lows of the channel makes a bit more sense. And it wouldn't be a surprise to see us hit 1750 again. We know Ethereum in 1750. The level's a pain. So we'll probably get magnetized back to it. And looking at it from a structural perspective, we had an L5 reversal off the lows. We've had L1 into an L2. And now I've got another L1. What would fit better than a repetition? L1 into L2, L1 into L2. L2 is right back down to the channel low. So where we are now, I'm not interested. I want to buy cheaper. Where we are now is an area that I'm looking to average out of. And Litecoin. I forgot Litecoin. Let me go to my crypto workspace real quick. Litecoin. From the Litecoin perspective, we've got... I mean, again, it's a really nice continuation to the upside. From the channel perspective, that sucks. I mean, they broke... It's the same thing Ethereum did. They broke above the channel highs twice. The double overshoot even further confirms a potential resistance there. The only thing that might kind of take that back is if we were to put this channel on the highs and we saw the market respond again. So, like, what I mean is if we park that down in the lower high here, We see resistance, we see support, support, resistance, 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 support, twin reversals, and now we're seeing resistance again. I think it's fair to say that the channel high is probably just a little bit inside. It's still a double break above the highs, and they held the inside. The inside was still at a higher high. So that does give us a clue that the market's going to pull back to the lows of the channel. But notice what the market's doing at the moment. The way that it's going to do this is much more likely going to be in the form of a megaphone with a flat bottom. So we'll see something like this, where it'll kind of grind down. It really didn't pull back as much as it just went sideways, right? Obviously, the big level, 200, something to pay attention to, but right there. That's where things get a lot more interesting. There's a bit of an undertow going on as well. But you can see EOS, where we were talking about the long, that was right there. We got that nice continuation out, back up to the highs. That worked out beautifully. Bitcoin Cash was the other one, although I accidentally deleted that one. That was somewhere back in this mess. I know we had to sit through some pullback. It was inside here. I don't remember the exact price, but it dipped a little bit lower, tickled the low, and then ended up rotating higher. So that one wasn't as nice, but... And Coinbase doesn't have chart data for Nexo or Crow, so I can't pull those up. You'd have to look at TradingView for those. So Nexo is doing incredibly well. That was that pickup back down to the 240s. Now it's all the way back up to 280. Incredible bounce on Nexo. As far as Crow... What? Where did my... Oh. Why did it move up here? Crow was at the 1974 area, 20-cent area. That has also gone fantastically well. Although, don't let this move up look like too crazy. Remember, we're talking like a 20-cent to 22-cent move. It's only about 1%. That's one reason why I really like Crow, honestly. But I'm sorry, not 1%. 10%, whatever. It's later in the day. I can't has math, I promise. Any utility coin like that, I'm always going to have a high level of interest. Crow, Nexo, BNB, Binance Coin, Huobi Coin, or Huobi, or Huibi, or however you want to pronounce that. Any in-house token like that has a perk. Bittrex is another one, but I don't think you can publicly trade that anywhere. They give you discounts on your trades. You can get free trades, stuff like that. Same with Crow or Nexo. Those are utility coins that they can pay you interest on for holding. Those are things that I like for long-term holds, especially when the volatility is low. When the volatility is low, you can DCA in them constantly, and you're only up or down like 5-10%. I know from a stock perspective is actually quite a bit, but for crypto, that's pretty stable. So, you know, it's a nice little utility. Plus, Crow is an example. I have crypto.com. I think there's a link in the YouTube description below. But if you use them, you can actually use them as like a debit card, and you can get cash back, and they pay you back in Crow. And then you can stake that Crow and earn an APY on that Crow. So it's like making your money work for you 4 times over. It's stupid not to use it, you know? Those types of things, I'm all for. Yeah, I'm all over the place when it comes to those. But like Bitcoin, yeah, it's the OG, you know, it's the granddaddy. I don't have anything against Bitcoin. But at the same time, there are a lot of other things that do it just as well, if not better. I'm not necessarily fastened to Bitcoin or married to Bitcoin in and of itself, other than it's kind of like the SPX. It's the cash market. It's the big honcho. You know, it's the one that everybody always looks at. Oh, you don't have Bitcoin in your portfolio? What are you, stupid? You know, that's going to be in 10 years from now. It's like Boeing. Everybody's got it. But the smaller ones, those are the ones that I have a lot more interest in. The utility coins that are going to bring a lot to the table. The EOS blockchain, which they're developing incredible games on, I mean, not just games, tons of stuff on. NFT platforms on EOS system. I mean, there's so much coming. Do you buy Bitcoin etc. through NinjaTrader? No, I wish I could. NinjaTrader, to my knowledge, and it's been probably a month since I checked, so maybe things have changed, but to my knowledge, you can't trade Bitcoin, like the actual crypto. You can trade Bitcoin futures, which is a total waste of money in my opinion. But you can't trade Bitcoin via Coinbase on NinjaTrader. You can trade it on Sim, like you can throw a Sim trade on there and it'll work, but there's no, like, when you're connecting to Coinbase, you don't even use your Coinbase info. There's no connection to your account. Now I have heard, I haven't personally looked at it, but I have heard rumblings that TradeStation is doing TradeStation crypto. I don't know what that's about. I don't know anything about it. I haven't looked much into it other than rumors. But if that's the case, and we're starting to see these big names in the future side of things and the charting platforms coming up with crypto, which they're going to have to if they're not going to want to go bankrupt and out of business, they're going to have to start supporting some way to trade it. Because honestly, I would rather trade crypto than stocks. There's more liquidity. It's a lot more interesting. It's 24/7, and there's no limit lockup BS. Oh, you're stuck in your position? Guess you're in an infinite loss scenario. Not my problem. No, that doesn't happen. Now, the one caveat on the other side that does happen is you'll see flash crashes and exchanges getting hacked. There's never going to be a 100% answer. But I would rather trade crypto than stocks. Because at least if I'm wrong on crypto, then, you know, I'll hold it and I can use it as a utility, because I only trade utility coins, and I'll just use it to stake and make proof of stake. And yeah, plus there's no PDT BS on crypto. Commissions on one Bitcoin on Coinbase is $275? For one? That's about as ironic as Robinhood doing what they did. Like, talk about an oxymoron. That just seems really stupid. But now they're going public. They got to make the investors happy. That's ridiculous. I forgot to ask, does NinjaTrader offer stock data? Through NinjaTrader specifically, I'm not sure. But I know you can buy data and hook it up to NinjaTrader, yes. Kinetic and all of that. But I don't know if you can actually set it up through NinjaTrader's website, is what I'm getting at. Yes is the answer to your question. As to how to get it onto NinjaTrader, it's been a minute. I typically am looking at end-of-day charts anyway, so I don't use the live data feed very often. If I do, I'll use Schwab or Thinkorswim. Well, Schwab. Thinkorswim's garbage. Well, the platform. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions come in, so that's going to do it. As per the usual, if I did miss any questions, you can always shoot those to me via email, jhb@ssftg.com. I'll get those covered for you from there. You can watch this recording back a little bit later. It's posted on YouTube pretty much straight out of the gates, so there's no real worry about that. I'm sorry, $294 fee on Coinbase. $294. Thank you for the screenshot, too. That's absurd. So, I mean, it has to move $1,000 for you to actually make anything past the commissions. That's ridiculous. Well, anyway. Today was recorded. You'll be able to watch that back a little bit later. I hope you all had a great day of trading. As per the usual, we will see you all back tomorrow morning. Remember, Friday is Good Friday, so Friday is a holiday. We won't be here then. But Thursday and Wednesday, we'll be here ready to rock and roll. So we got a couple more days yet. Enjoy the rest of the day. Rest up, and we will see you all tomorrow, all right? Have a good one. We'll talk to y'all later. Thanks.